A lot of resources right next to the neutral colony. And ooh, that is all kinds of almost every resource you could possibly need. So much iron and aluminum right in the middle. Soren's just going to drop Robotic right in the middle of all that aluminum. Head very quickly for some upgrading.
Stand by for instructions.
Scientific, on the other hand, for Leyla, I really like the scientific decision. Pirates are definitely going to be a risk with where she's going ahead and putting the steel mills, which I don't actually agree with. Okay, she decided that was ridiculous as well. Probably going to put some steel mills up here. There we go. If an early pirate auction doesn't happen, this could work out pretty well for her. But Soren, immediately knowing what to do, sells all that huge number of resources that he needed to in order to push for the immediate upgrade, and placing his steel mills way up next to his iron as well for those adjacency bonuses for Robotic. Interestingly enough, taking this aluminum tile, not something I like at all. I do not like that claim. It denies the really nice adjacency bonus to Leyla, but it also denies himself the adjacency bonus. And she can still take this low tile, this low tile. All he's denying access to is like 0.75 aluminum a second at most, which she almost certainly isn't going to need. Can't agree with that decision at all. Also, don't really like the initial decision for just 2 steel mills. I can understand it, but he is going to have all kinds of iron flowing in and isn't going to be able to really make a whole lot of use out of it. He can sell some of it early and it might work out, but I don't really know. Power going down already for Soren. Very, very early power in this particular case. We've got a claim auction up. Not going to let that go for 1,000. Leyla just making the most of the time to think, I believe. Totally reasonable. And what are we going to have with this auction? People are taking a while on it. It's probably going to get driven up to 12 to 20,000, depending with these particular players. And we'll just have to see how it goes.
16,000.
Who's going to chicken out first? You going to do it, Soren? You going to push for that 20? No, he's going to let it go for 18. That's a bit of a risk for Leyla, but understandable. Robots generally develop large amounts of debt compared to other players because they're consuming so much power in the early game, and they're consuming electronics, which are very difficult to move into, and really a very, very late game resource. So they never curb off any of that debt by producing the resource for an extended period of time. So he needs to avoid those super expensive auctions until his opponent has developed enough debt that he can really fight back and let his own debt pile up without it hurting his stock price too much relative to the other player. Solar panel went down at an unfortunate time, but it'll come online very, very soon, and Soren just doing the usual Robotic thing, taking heavy advantage of the fact that he only needs steel and aluminum to upgrade, and flying through upgrades very, very quickly. Leyla is level 2. Keeping up all right, all things considered, especially because scientists are way more efficient with their tiles, generally speaking, than Robotic players are. So she could still be in a very, very strong position here, especially considering she has the extra claim from founding late. I do believe... Let's see. Who is it that purchased the extra claim? I believe Soren was the one to purchase the extra claim. A little bit difficult to keep track of unless I'm paying very, very close attention. But he has so many claims, I have to imagine he got the extra one. This should be another steel mill going up. That's going to give him very nice steel production. We have a geotherm secured, which is going to be fantastic for him later. We have some carbon secured, very important for a Robotic player, because they're going to need that as the core of their electronics building. And he finishes it all off with a power surge onto Leyla's steel mills, which is going to halt her expansion in its tracks. One thing I do want to point out, Leyla with a very nice claim here, kind of cutting Soren off from his 2 resource locations. This is a big risk that Soren took in a lot of ways by founding on top of these resources, is he's right up against this cliff. It's going to be very difficult for him to get very nice adjacency bonuses on these tiles. He's going to have to use these for something like a pleasure dome, a hacker array, a patent lab, or just a little bit of power, potentially. He can't really use them for great big piles of electrolysis reactors or electronics factories, things of that nature. We do have some electrolysis down for Leyla, very understandable. Generally, very, very nice buildings. In this particular case, might want to round it out with a water pump, just because water is going to be getting pretty high, since Soren isn't putting any of it into the market, being a robot.
4,000.
Perpetual motion auction. This is actually very nice for a robotic player who consumes a ridiculous amount of power. So he might be pushing for this pretty hard. Leyla might be able to drive it up pretty significantly before he backs down. I certainly would be in this case.
12,000.
All right, is he going to go for 14? He's not going to go for 14, so it stops at 12,000. She's got a lot of debt at this point. She's going to have to be looking out for something that happened very similar to last game, where Soren just finds a really nice timing to hit before she manages to get everything established. She really can't afford to go too hard on any more auctions. But I do want to point out, despite those auctions, and the fact that she's taken both of them for a fairly significant sum of money, Soren still has 17,000 debt. He's well on his way toward 20,000 at this point, mostly off of just this electronics deficit. We do have the geotherm established. It is almost certainly goon squatted. There we go. We can see it there. And what else do we have around the map? Wow, going for some very early stock purchases here. How much money is he actually sitting on? He can't really push this too far. He's just kind of taking what he can get as he can get it. But I don't know how it's going to cause Leyla to react. Once again, just going for that very, very early hit. Could work out very well for him. This was a water pump. Interesting. 2 mutinies going down simultaneously. One on the power, one on the iron. Not really sure about this iron mutiny. I don't really like it very much. But the power mutiny, that could be fantastic, because that's giving a huge amount of debt over to Leyla. He's going for this early push. He wants to force her debt up as much as he can. And he's just trying to end this game very, very quickly. Leyla going ahead and securing a geotherm in response. An understandable play, wanting to just guarantee that she's going to have power. It stops that debt from coming in. This glass furnace has been chugging away the whole time, making small amounts of money, if we're honest. Hopefully working out okay. I do wish I could click on their headquarters just to see where all of their buildings are for sure around the map. Maybe that'll get patched in later, guys. Guess we'll have to find out. And we have more power going online. I'm a little bit worried about this. This feels like an overcommittal to me, an overreaction. We can see power's already coming down in price, purely because of this adjacency bonus coming online, with a geotherm and a wind turbine, and I think this was another power location. This is a bit of an overcommittal. It's an understandable reaction, but more of an emotional reaction than anything else. Being scared of the debt, wanting it to go away, wanting to make money off this power while you can, but I'm very concerned about what it's going to cost, with silicon being particularly so expensive. Oxygen surplus, not going to help Leyla at all, given she's already moved into those reactors. We've got Soren going ahead and upgrading. He's heading for some silicon, very reasonable to secure. Pirates going for just 5,000. Soren not interested in those at all. Interesting decision to me. He could have at least taken this steel. Would have been worth a good 10,000 on those pirates there. Leyla instead grabbing them up. We're going to see what the rest of Soren's claims are. Already moving into electronics production. Understandable. Understandable. Once again, that kind of gut reaction as a player. I want to make this debt stop. And maybe the most profitable thing available. I would love to see something like a hacker array go down in conjunction with these, though, just to guarantee that that is going to be well worth the cost. Another definite option here. Neither player has secured a lot of water income. This is likely a water pump. No, it's a quarry. Interesting. So a little bit of a silicon quarry going down instead of the electrolysis. Understandable after that oxygen surplus.
Pirates.
What else are we looking for here?
Filthy bandits.
Pirating the silicon, very strong decision. That's going to be well worth the 4,000 that was spent on it. It also makes these electronics even more difficult to produce. And interestingly enough, Leyla has decided to move into electronics as well, trying to prevent Soren from doing any kind of crazy plays with his electronics factories and at least not getting a cut in it. So we'll see what happens with those, especially as Soren's going to be consuming so many electronics. He may not be able to get a nice stockpile up, but she's going to have to supply these with the carbon required if she really wants to take advantage of it. Let's see. Steel production, still very, very nice. That's why we're seeing these power surges consistently onto these 3 steel mills of Leyla's across both games. Steel has stayed very, very nice. Soren going for just more stock purchases. I wouldn't be surprised if he is set at this point, if he is done. He might just be pushing with what he has for the end and not looking to expand anymore. That feels very consistent with the kind of thing he was doing in the first game. But we'll see how it works out. Leyla securing some carbon of her own, it looks like. Kind of an understandable decision. Not really one I would go for when carbon is this cheap, though. I'd probably look at continuing to try and make good use of these silicon tiles. Even more electronics production. It's a very interesting response to try and get into the market the other player is doing and just overwhelm it. If she's going to go that route, I would kind of like to see this turn into an electronics factory for the adjacency bonuses, but I can understand it staying the aluminum mine, given aluminum's fairly significant price.
5,000.
Pirates again.
1,000. 8,000.
We'll just see what happens with these. Once again, I still think these are quite valuable. Not ridiculously valuable, but quite valuable. 14,000, really? We're going to push all the way up to 14. 16,000. I don't know about 16,000. That's getting to be very, very expensive pirates, and I don't know what you're going to be able to put them on that'll really help slow down enough to be worth the 14,000. Silicon's still available, but pirates are already set up there. It's just not coming in fast enough to consume them. Soren immediately sending all of his resources in response to the pirates, didn't want to have any of them taken away that didn't have to be. But they're just not valuable enough to worry about anyway.
Your stock
I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see what happens. Leyla trying to scrape together what resources she can to defend herself, I believe. As we can see, she has some amount of funds, but not very many. Just probably working toward buying up her own stock by selling off what she can. Oh, actually getting aggressive and going after Soren's stock. Thinking maybe that's the better route. Maybe she can push for it. It's a bit risky, especially with how much debt she has compared to him, but we'll see how it turns out. What can we do from here? We can see both players kind of just depleting their valuable resources, trying to turn those into funds as fast as they can, but not worrying yet about their less valuable resources. Likely won't sell them until they're ready for that exact final push, just to make sure they get as much out of them as they possibly can. EMP onto the electronics factories did not hit the goon squad, which is quite fortunate. Going to go ahead and shut down that income, start adding to Soren's debt as much as she can. Soren has secured 80% of Leyla's stock. It's going to be very difficult for her to come back into this because he has, honestly, a fairly nice source of income up and running still in this aluminum and in this silicon that might be able to push him over the edge. She, on the other hand, has fairly strong electronics production, has some good glass production up and running, has a nice silicon core going, but it's all coming potentially just a bit too late. I think Soren's made his push at this point, and it's probably been enough to secure the game, so we'll have to see what she can do with it. Pretty much everything she has at this point almost certainly has to go into buying Soren's stock if she wants to have a shot at still winning this game. And it needs to be going as fast as it can, just driving her stock price up constantly, trying to push that goal farther and farther up that he needs to reach. She still has one claim yet left, and that I'm a little bit worried about. She may have just purchased it from the stock market, actually, which I don't think would have been a good decision. Or sorry, from the black market. I don't think that would have been a good decision. If we're doing anything with the black market right now, it should almost be almost certainly be shutting down Soren's income. We need to stop him from making resources if we're in Leyla's position. We need to stop him from making money anywhere. Adding to our own income is not going to be very viable because she spent probably about 9,000, I believe, on that claim. And that's 9,000 that could have just gone into a stock purchase. That's a good 60% of a stock purchase right now. Very, very difficult to advocate throwing that away. Underground nuke on the aluminum, going to do almost nothing. Don't agree with it either. Almost certainly could have found a better way to hit his opponent because underground nukes are just not very effective against scientific. Would have much rather seen a power surge just slice through all of these buildings, even at its cost of 9,000. Maybe even an EMP could have hit very, very nicely in here, as he should be well aware of all the goon squads, where all the goon squads are this game. Carbon now starting to get very, very pricey. Both players having moved into electronics. That is going to be a bit of an issue for Leyla, as she just does not have the carbon production to support all of this production. Going to need to see something like a mutiny on this tile, very likely, in order to stay in this game. Soren actually opting to stop pushing for the win. He's going to commit his resources into an expansion, going to try and find some new way to make money. Water and food, both very viable options right now. We can see he's likely moving into those resources. Glass, not too expensive. It's pricey, but for glass, we've seen prices much, much higher. Instead, he's going to move into this water. He's going to try and get this food up. I expect to see a hacker array somewhere, sometime, just to see something different, try and force to that actual kill, because he's having trouble just securing that 40,000 resources that he needs, that $40,000. I have to imagine this is another electronics factory, which would be a bit unfortunate in my opinion, given how expensive these resources are. We've got 70, 90, and 70 over here. Now 90, 90, and 70 over here, basically, for our resources going into our electronics factories, and they're not making that much money anymore. I'm very concerned about that for Leyla. On top of that, as Leyla drives the electronics price down, that's just making it easier for Soren to avoid any debt and make money off of his power, not have to worry about his stock price dropping and things of that nature. I can understand the electronics move, but I think it's time to just cut our losses and head somewhere else. Soren, it looks like, is getting down a little bit of food production right here. That should be a farm going down. He's got a water pump, and he's just trying to scrape together the money to get the glass, to put down the food, and this is probably going to be his killing blow, is this food production. Once again, I want to see it paired with a hacker array. I want to see that happen just to secure this game, but the food production alone should be a very strong move. So, what did that go for? What was that? 6,000 for a geotherm. Okay. Looks like it was the one that Leyla picked up right here, which I don't know if I like. I don't know if she can afford that 6,000 debt right now. She's having a very, very hard time with that. It's already up at 123,000. And it's about to accumulate an additional 10% off of that as we move into day 6. We do have farms coming down for Leyla. Once again, an understandable decision. I believe she mostly had the glass to make that happen, but it's all starting to come a bit too late. Soren's got his production online. He's finally making money solidly again. He can turn these electronics factories off and make a little bit more, probably. But all he needs is to let this water roll in, turn it into food. I don't even know if the farms needed to happen yet. He probably could have just done it off of water. And he'll have this game wrapped up very quickly. There we go. Soren taking down Leyla. 2-0. Not a hugely surprising thing. Leyla did put up quite a bit of a fight, though. That was not the easiest win we've ever seen, and Soren definitely stalled out on his attack in that second game, so she put up a very, very nice fight. Once again, here we can actually see they made very, very similar amounts of money. They sold for very similar amounts, but my big concern is how much Leyla was having to purchase to actually make those electronics. As we can see, Soren only purchased about $40,000 worth of resources in order to make more resources. He did some auto purchasing of power and electronics, but we're not going to worry about that. We can see he purchased about 9,000 aluminum, 9,000 in silicon, and almost nothing in carbon, 630. Leyla, on the other hand, we can see a huge difference here, where she had to buy 30,000 carbon just to keep those electronics factories online. She had to buy 12,000 aluminum. She had to buy 6,000 in silicon, but it's really that carbon that I was harping on that I think did her in at the end of the game. If she had maybe gotten a mutiny onto that carbon quarry, could have turned the game in a completely different direction, forcing Soren to be buying that up, keeping him from moving into those new markets and just leaving him at a very difficult position where he had a good spot and he had a lot of stock, but he just stopped making money. Overall, though, very good games from both players. That was very interesting. Certainly a bit closer than some of the games we've seen, even just tonight and through the rest of the weekend. I think that's going to about wrap it up. They may try calling me. Yep, they're calling me. Let's go ahead and get in on this.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it was good. Those were interesting games.
Yeah,
Was...
they did a pretty good job.
I put up a fight as much as I can.
Yeah.
I hit the wall that last game. I suppose
you
probably
did.
Noticed.
Yeah, definitely.
I was changing though from electronics to food.
Which
And
was the
when you
right
want-
thing to do. Yeah.
I mean,
Just
I
a little
already
too late.
started kind of.
Yeah, it was just too late.
I
Yeah.
know, it's
You actually put up,
fun.
Leyla had a really good chance of coming back into that. Like, she made the transition into electronics, and that kind of stopped you from making money. I think
Yeah,
she
that
just
was really
overcommitted
hard.
to it a bit too much, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, she did a great job of stopping me. I mean, I put a goon squad down, but she really did knock out my
The
electronics.
problem is
Yeah.
I wanted to go into food, but I couldn't just like build one or just two.
Yeah.
The adjacency bonus on no water tile is ridiculous unless I build 3.
yeah, and that
Well,
was
so
So
fine.
I kind of have to kind of go all the way.
Yeah, I hit that point I often get to with Robotic where like you got this incredible production, but nothing you have is worth anything.
Yep,
Um,
exactly.
So I had this awkward moment where I had a bunch of good stock, but I had no money. My resources were worth nothing, and everything I was producing was worth nothing. So
Yep.
I literally had to wait for like 2 or 3 minutes to build up to upgrade.
Yep. And that's what I was actually talking about on stream just before you guys called, was just you kind of hit that position, and Leyla really kind of helped force you into that position with that electronics production. But I thought maybe she committed to it a bit too much, because the real big difference, you guys actually sold almost exactly the same number of resources. Leyla sold more than you did, actually. She sold 177,000. You only sold 174,000. But the big difference you can see is she had to purchase 30,000 carbon in order to make that electronics production work, right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna tell you something. Before I moved into food, realizing the food's starting to go up, I was wanting to take one tile and move into a hacker array and get that geothermal and like get you on power.
On power, yeah.
I was actually really surprised neither of you built a hack array. I really thought Soren was going to go into a hacker array
I mean,
with
I also noticed I bought the geo.
the electronics production.
I thought she was going to be able to shut down my electronics. I figured they would keep getting hit, so I didn't think it would pay off. And the price was not that high. It was like 180. I mean, obviously, like you use the hacker array to drive it up, but I just felt like I was going to get EMP'd to death.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, it's Well, I mean, I think I made a real point. I think on one of my early upgrades to grab that medium carbon up north, and I think that really paid off.
Yeah, no, that was something I noticed when you were doing it, and I thought it was very important, because that's something a lot of robotic players forget, is how important carbon is to them. It's extremely important, obviously.
Yeah.
And so that was a really good early claim from you.
I was trying to get PB on the phone with me, like, hey, you gotta help me. I was like,
Oh, yeah?
nah, you gotta do it on your own.
Oh.
Yeah, that is kind of important sometimes, you know.
Yeah,
just,
I know, right? It's just like, I was freaking out.
Yeah, well, I'm really proud of Leyla. I mean, that was not an easy match, either one.
yeah. Well, and she got so unlucky in that first match. Let's be honest. She had you with aluminum.
You think so?
She had you with aluminum dead to rights, and then the surplus comes in and destroys the price completely.
See, I didn't even notice that. I was telling her later she shouldn't have sold her aluminum. I didn't notice there was a surplus.
I didn't sell my aluminum. There
Yeah, it was a surplus, so you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, it was just terrible luck on her
You should
part.
have seen the surplus. I was like, what?
Oh,
Really?
that must hurt. That hurt.
Yeah. Because I
That was an
thought,
awkward spot. I must have spent 40 or 50,000 on aluminum.
yeah, you spent a lot on aluminum that game, and I think if that surplus hadn't happened, she probably would have taken you down pretty easily that game. But that surplus hit, and it was just at the wrong moment.
You had a chance. I mean, I was hurting a little bit.
But you were killing my steel production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just trying to hit it.
And that definitely contributed as well. I didn't know if you were thinking it all the way through, but this basic idea of if she has a lot of aluminum, what she can really do with that is upgrade. And so if you shut down her steel production, then she has a lot of trouble. And she has to sell that aluminum to the market in order to keep doing things. And it was a really, really, really good play at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, it's straightforward. I mean, you're
It
not
is.
going to go wrong shutting down some of the steel mills.
Well, sometimes you are, but that game, it was definitely a good idea. Sometimes I have my steel mills shut down, and I'm just like, whatever. I was about to turn those into something else.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he was kind of basically trying to force me to sell my
I mean, we were racing. The thing is, we were pretty close, and I felt like we were both upgrading as fast as we could, basically. And I felt like
I tried to try back when the surplus happened. I wanted to buy more
as much
aluminum, but I just didn't have money.
Yeah.
Like you were killing my steel.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, but there was a chemical shortage early in that first game.
that chemical surplus?
No, shortage.
Was there a shortage? Because there was also a surplus.
Yeah, there was a surplus. There was a chemical shortage. Actually, I think what happened is there was the surplus, so it went down low. And then there was a shortage shortly after it. I bought into that heavy. I sold everything I had. And I know I made I ended up over 20,000 after that was over.
Gotcha.
That was where my initial purchase of her came from. I got the first 3 or 4 shares just off of that chemical shortage.
That makes sense. I definitely missed that as it was happening. I spotted the surplus because I remember talking about, man, there's a surplus. Chemicals are actually down at like $4 right now. That's basically a free whatever tech they want if one of them goes into a patent lab, right?
Yep.
But with that shortage coming in too, that's pretty massive during that game.
Yeah, that worked. You get a lot of leverage if the price is low and then a shortage comes in.
Exactly.
And I was driving up the price as well as I was buying, so the shortage sort of gets amplified.
I thought you guys were being ridiculous with blocking each other off from those adjacency bonuses right next to your base that second game, Soren.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
We got one aluminum, and then nothing in the middle, and then another. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go ahead and prevent that from happening.
Yeah. I changed myself. I didn't grab the one that was next to my after that.
But then,
that was a good
Baltar,
play on
you
your
taught
part.
me that. Like early when I started playing the game, you pointed that to me early on, how like I should never allow people to make more money if I could.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
And I said, you know what, I'm just gonna put some power on there.
Yeah.
No,
That's a great move.
I was really questioning Soren's decision because I was like, that's really just like half an aluminum more or 0.75 more with adjacency. And then Leyla just completely crushed you for it, realistically, right?
Yeah,
Cutting off your 2 tiles from each other.
Yeah, I don't think my move was necessarily that great. I just kind of like, I'm going to grab it, and then afterwards, like, I don't even have anything to do with this tile.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was almost sure you were going to move into something like a hacker array, right? Because it's like, what else are you going to do with that tile? It was sitting there, I think, on a solar panel literally all game, which meant for most of the game it was doing almost nothing.
So I didn't know what if I made aluminum out of it and I need power. It was ridiculous for me at that point. I just wanted to make power because I didn't commit any tile, Connor. I didn't commit any tile to power. So I thought, well, you know what? 2 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah. But they were definitely interesting games.
I thought I was just gonna suck more, basically.
No, you did fine. I think you definitely could have beat other people in the tournament for sure.
Oh, definitely. You just, got forced up against your husband, and he kind of makes the game, so...
I think you could. I'd love to see you play. I'd love to see you play those 3.
I think she'd probably dominate most of the people at your office based on what I've seen. But
maybe that's what we'll do in the stream.
No way, I can't dominate.
that could be fun.
I'd like to see you play Scott.
That'd be nice.
That's very nice. It's very nice.
Like, I wouldn't want to use the black market against you. Such a nice guy.
All right, play Josh. That might be a good matchup. Josh, I think, is having a hard time adjusting to 2-player. He really has not played at all. So.
Yeah, it's a different thing. I really like it though.
Josh is a pretty good player. Like he is solid. He wins plenty of games in the office, but he's just not used to 2-player.
Right.
Well, so Soren moves to the next round. I'd be happy to say that. I'm not really happy, but hey.
Who am I playing? Yeah. Who am I playing? It's some European, right? At the bottom of the bracket?
Yeah, you're on the European. I put you on European grade.
Right. We took over for the Australian.
The bottom of the bracket? That would be up against Dancing Bogman, right?
Oh, okay.
Or if that's the position you took.
Dancing Bogman.
Oh, and if you beat him, then you have to face either Zap or Sir Rogers, and good luck with that.
What I like to do with the bracket is all the way up, it's the Canadian and the Americans, and then you see on the bottom like the Europeans, and Lingezi and Aknebel were supposed to be Malaysia and Australia.
Gotcha.
They didn't show up.
Gotcha.
But, however, I do want to say that in this tourney, we're going to be giving a free key for a random person who's been active in the tourney. So it's just going to put all the names in a hat and draw from the hat, and that person would win a free key. So if they want to keep an eye out after the tourney for the forums, we'll probably announce it on the blog or Twitter. That'd be nice.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, it was awesome tonight. We got five games showed up.
Got a lot of games done tonight, which is good, Starting to get we're well past the end of the weekend at this point, so it's nice to get this phase cleaned up. But how are the brackets looking at this point? I'm curious about. Did PB Head ever get to play his match, or is he just kind of getting a bye and going on to the next round?
He's gonna get a bye. We haven't heard anything from Stoll.
Sounds reasonable. Let's be honest. It's PB Head. He's kind of been on fire lately, anyway. So that'd be a bit scary.
I'm sure if anything, he's just disappointed he didn't
get to show off a little bit.
I mean, come on, he did show off, and we have to give him kudos for that.
That's true.
And he still won.
Yeah, he got a game against.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
So for the brackets, we're kind of looking at Tozar and PB, and then Aja Squared and York.
Okay.
Then we're seeing Freak and the Sagire. I still have no idea how to pronounce that name, but it's fine. Then we're going to have Indecision, and I don't actually know the result of Aito against the other Sam B. Do you guys have any clue?
Yes. They emailed me and they said that they're gonna be playing tonight.
Okay.
And but they didn't get. I don't know anything else. So I just have to kind of wait for
And
them.
a reminder, if anyone's listening who's in the tournament, when you finish your game, you gotta post to the results thread. So
Aito's actually in my chat right now. I might be pronouncing his name wrong, but maybe he'll give us an answer as to what's going on with that, with any luck.
Who else is moving on, Zoltar?
But then we've got, so one of those two against Indecision, and then I believe, from what I was hearing, Darth Caboose probably beat Pybro. Yeah, but I don't know about Benny Rules and Blue Triangle.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I think Blue Triangle has tried, and we haven't heard anything from any rules, so Blue Triangle will probably get the bye.
That's what I thought I remembered seeing on the forums, but I'm not sure. So if that's the case, we'll have Darth Caboose up against Blue Triangle. I don't know a whole lot about either of those players, but I have seen Darth Caboose around, and he seemed pretty good from what I've been seeing. Then we know we've got Cubit against A Soup. We've got Sir Rogers against Zap, which is going to be a fantastic game for sure.
Yeah, everyone will watch that one.
I mean, at the second tourney, you have to look forward for that, you know.
Yeah. And then finally, at the very bottom of the bracket, we've got Dancing Bogman up against Soren at this point. So, at next round, things are really starting to get interesting.